Good evening, friends. Myself, Dr. Nidhi Darbari, on My Education Treasure. In my previous video on Vaisheshik philosophy, I had discussed about the metaphysics of Vaisheshik Darshan. In the part 1, I had discussed about the Abhav or non-being. In part 2 of Vaisheshik philosophy, I had discussed about the Bhav or being. In it, Dravya and Gun were discussed. Today, in the part 3 of Vaisheshik philosophy, I am going to discuss about the remaining 4 Bhav: Karma, Samanya, Vishesh and Samvaya. Karma or action or activity. The third category is karma or action or activity, that is physical movement, which must also belong to a substance. Vaisheshik said that activity is the cause of the consumption, disjunction of things. But there can be only activity in corporeal substances: earth, water, fire, air, and mind. There can be no activity in all pervading substances, that is space, time, and soul. It inheres in substance and depends for its existence on the substance. It is an independent reality, as it can be conceived and named independently of the substance where it inheres. Like quality, it belongs to and inheres in a substance and cannot exist separately from it. But while a quality is a static and permanent feature of a substance, an action is dynamic and transient feature of it. Unlike a quality, an action is the cause of conjunction and disjunction. They are dynamic and transient feature of the substance. Action is said to be of 5 kinds: upward movement, downward movement, contraction, expansion, and locomotion. The next one is universal or samanya or particularity. The fourth category is samanya or general. It is class concept, essence, or universal. It is the common character of the thing which falls under the class. The samanya is more like the universal than like the genius. The genius stands for the class and includes the subclasses or species. The Samanya stands not for the class but for the common characteristics of certain individuals and does not include the subclasses. It is the universal by the possession of which different individuals are referred to as belonging to one class. It is called eternal, one, and residing in many. It is one though the individual in which it resides are many. It is eternal though the individuals in whom it inheres are subject to birth and death, production and destruction. It is common to many individuals. There is the class essence of the universal of man called manness or humanity, which inheres in all individual men. Similarly, cowness inheres in all individual cows. Kanad calls generality and particularity as relative to thought. But this does not mean that the universal and the particular are subjective concepts in our mind. Both are objective realities. The system is staunchly realistic. The universal has as much objective reality as the particular. It is not a subjective class concept in a mind but an objective, eternal, timeless entity shared by many particulars and corresponding to a general idea or class concept in our mind. The universal resides in substances, qualities, and actions. They are of 2 kinds, higher and lower. The higher generality is that of being satta, It includes everything and itself is not included in anything because it covers a limited number of things and cannot cover all things. A universal cannot subsist in another universal. Otherwise, an individual may be a man, cow, and a horse at the same time. Only one is universal success in all individuals of a class. What subsists in one in only like etherness subsisting in either is not a universal. Conjunctions inheres in any substance conjoins, but it is not universal since it is not eternal. Particularity. The fifth category is particularity, the study of how we are to understand the uniqueness of thing which has no parts. How can we distinguish one atom of light from another? How can we distinguish one mind from another? We can't distinguish these by a difference in parts, for these things have no parts. The Vaisheshik named this particular character of partless yet distinguishable substance as Vishesh. It is the class object or class essence, that is common character of the thing, which falls under the same class, for example, cowness. It is the notion of sameness, but not the genus or a class, but the common character found in certain individuals. Samanya subsist in substance, attributes, or actions. There is no universal subsisting in another universal. There is a single universal subsisting in all individuals of the same class. What subsists in only individual is not universal. Its knowledge can be acquired through Samanya Lakshan, Alaukik, Pratyaksh, Praman. It is one eternal, not residing in many. In respect of the extension, universals may be distinguished as para, highest and all-pervading, which include everything but itself is not interested in anything, example, beinghood. Para para, the intermediate, for example, animalness. Apara, the lowest, for example, cowness. However, Buddhists rejects this view as according to them nothing is permanent and real. Every Padarth is Swalakshan, that is individual alone is real and there is no eternal entity like Samanya. They explain similarity and resemblance through the concept of apoha, according to which universals are only names and not real. Individuals called by one name are different from those to which a different name is given. For example, cow is called cows because it shares universal cowness, but because it is different from all objects which are not cow. Vishesh. The next category is Vishesh or particularity. It enables us to perceive thing as different from another. Every individual is particular, a single and a unique thing different from all others. It has got a uniqueness of its own which constitutes its particularity. It is opposed to generality. Generality is inclusive, particularity is exclusive. Generality forms the basis of assimilation, particularity forms the basis of discrimination. It is very important to remember that the composite object of this world, which we generally call particular objects, are not real particulars. According to Nyaya, Vaisheshik compounds objects can be easily distinguished from one another by the difference of dyad to any gross object in particular. It is only in the case of simple, ultimate, eternal substance which are otherwise alike that need arises to postulate the category of Vishesh in order to distinguish them from one another. Thus, for example, one atom is similar to another of the same element, and one soul is similar to another soul. Now, how to account for their separate reality? Nyaya Vaisheshik, being a school of staunch realism, maintains quantitative but also qualitative pluralism. One atom is different from another not only in numerical existence but also in qualitative existence. The category of Vishesh or particular is invented to defend this. Each partless ultimate substance has an original peculiarity of its own and underived uniqueness of its own, which is called particularity or Vishesh, therefore is the differentia of ultimate eternal substance, which otherwise alike. They are innumerable eternal Vishesh. They distinguish the substance where they inhere from the other substance, and they do also distinguish themselves from other particularities. Composite things of this world are not real particulars, rather, it is only in the case of simple eternal substances. Generality concerned the fact that many things possess a common nature. What is it that cows have in common? What is the universal that they share? The Buddhists were nominalist. They said only the individuals are real. Universals do not exist. Certain four-legged animals are called cows not because they possess a common sense, but because we decided to call them to aid in communicating about the daily matters of life. The Jains were conceptualists. To them, the universal called cow did not paint to an independent entity but was constituted by essential common attributes of all these individuals we call cow. The Nyaya and Vaisheshik school were realist but universals. They held that universals are eternal entities distinct from both individuals and from the essential common attributes of those individuals. If you found the video to be informative and interesting, I request you all to please give a like to the video to motivate me, share it with others and subscribe it so that whenever I upload a new video, you will get a notification. Samvaya or inherence. The next category is Samvaya or inseparable eternal relation called inherence. It is different from conjunction or samyog, which is separable and transient relation and is a quality gun. Samvaya is an independent category padarth. Kannad calls it the relation between the cause and effect. Prashastapad defines it as a relationship subsisting among things that are inseparable, standing to one another in relation to the container and the contained, and being the basis of the idea this is in that. The things related by Samvaya are inseparably connected. It is inseparable relationship. It is eternal because its production would involve infinite regress. It is imperceptible and is inferred from inseparable relation of two things. The things which are inseparable connected are these: the part and the whole, the quality and the substance, the action and the substance, the particular and the universal, the Vishesh and the eternal substance. Samvaya is found in these. A whole cow inheres in its part. The whole inheres in it the part. The quality inheres in a substance. An action inheres in its substance. The universal inheres in the individual members of the same class. The particularity of Vishesh inheres in eternal substance. Samvaya is one and eternal relationship subsisting between two things inseparable connected. It is inseparable and eternal relation ayut siddha between two entities of which inheres in other that is, one of which cannot exist without the other. Example, whole and part. It is not produced by the conjunction out of two separate things, but is an eternal relation that cannot be separated from each other. On the contrary of Samvaya relation is Samyog relation, which is recognized by Nyaya Vaisheshik but not as independent Padarth. Samyog is temporary and non-eternal relation, that is Yukta Siddha, between two things which can and usually do exist in separation to each other. There are three types of Samyog. Anyatar Karmaj Samyog, that is due to action of one, example of flying bird sit on a tree. Ubhay Karmaj Samyog, that is due to action of both, example two persons shaking hand. And Samyog, that is Samyog produced by another Samyog, for example birds sitting on a tree indirectly in contact with earth. Since Samyog is non-eternal relation, it is subject to end. There are three ways of end or vibhag. Anyata Karmaj Vibhag, birds fly off the tree. Ubhay Karmaj Vibhag, two person withdrawing hands from handshake. Vibhagaj Vibhag, birds fly off the tree, the relation between bird and ground ends. Thank you very much for patiently watching the video, and don't forget to subscribe.